Today I'd like for us to talk about wisdom. Now the dictionary defines wisdom as the ability to see into a situation. The ability to understand the inner nature of things. To grasp with understanding. The ability to see, recognize, or understand something that is not clear. The ability to understand the truth of something that is not readily apparent. Wisdom is not the same as knowledge. Having knowledge means that you know facts, you know information. Having wisdom means that you know how to apply your knowledge to make good judgments. That's the difference in knowledge and wisdom. As an example, during the coronavirus, lots of medical professionals, people who had lots of knowledge, did not exhibit wisdom. They were not able to discern and see into the situation and apply their knowledge with insight to make good judgment. Now, I think we automatically assume that people who are smart and who have lots of knowledge are also wise. And because of that, we tend to put unquestioned trust in people with lots of knowledge. But the coronavirus should be the example of the millennium that says that that is not true, because it illustrated graphically how people with knowledge don't necessarily have wisdom. They don't necessarily have the insight to apply their knowledge to make good judgment. And that's what wisdom really is. The ability to apply knowledge with insight. The ability to perceive and then make good judgment. It's not just knowing facts. You do have to have knowledge in order to be wise. But just because you have knowledge does not mean you are wise. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you do not have the ability to apply to make good judgments, it's worthless. Wisdom and knowledge are linked in that you can't have wisdom without knowledge, but you can certainly have knowledge without wisdom. We may assume that wisdom and knowledge increase with age. We would assume that an older person has more knowledge and wisdom than a younger person. It is true that an older person does have more knowledge than a younger person. You have been exposed to many more things and know many more things today than you were when you were 20 years old. As a person ages, they do in fact gain knowledge. So there is a direct connection between knowledge and age. There is no connection, though, between age and wisdom. People might gain more knowledge as they age, but they don't necessarily become wiser. One of the reasons for that is knowledge is a passive thing. You don't have to consciously set out to acquire knowledge as you go through life. It just happens through your life experience. You see more things, you are exposed to more things, you do more things. But wisdom is different. You do not acquire wisdom passively. It's something you have to work on. And that's the reason why wisdom does not necessarily increase with age. And so wisdom is the ability to understand something that is not clear. It is able to perceive something that is not readily apparent. It is the ability to see many different angles of one situation. Things that might not be clear on first glance, you're able to study and see. Wisdom is the ability to perceive long-term effects so that you make a good choice in the situation. Now, the Bible contains a lot about wisdom, and most of it is in the Old Testament. Although there is quite a bit about wisdom in the New, there is a lot about wisdom in the Old Testament. Probably the best known passage of wisdom comes from the book of Proverbs, and it goes like this: wisdom calls aloud in the street. She raises her voice in the open squares. She cries out in the chief concourses. In the openings of the gates of the city, she speaks her words. How long, you naive ones, will you love being naive? Scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn to me. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called and you refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no one regards it, because you disdain all my counsel. You would have none of my rebuke. I will laugh at your calamities. I will mock you when your terror comes, when it comes like a storm, and your destruction comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. So you see wisdom standing there, crying in the streets, begging people to come. They pay her no attention, and so they go to their own destruction. That talks about wisdom is the opposite of being naive. And to be naive is defined as lacking understanding. You're gullible. You're disposed to believe things too readily. You're apt to believe things with slight doubt. You can see how that's the opposite of wisdom. Wisdom means you have insight and you can perceive. Now, the book of Proverbs contains another long passage about wisdom, and I want to read it to you today because it's very interesting. Does not wisdom cry out? Does not understanding lift up her voice? She takes her stand on the top of the high hill, beside the way where the paths meet. She cries out at the entrance of the city, at the center of the doors. She says, to you, O men, I call, and my voice is to all the sons of men. O you naive ones, understand prudence. You fools, be of an understanding heart. Listen, for I will speak of excellent things. From the opening of my lips will come right things. My mouth will speak truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are with righteousness. Nothing crooked or perverse is in them. My words are plain to him who understands. My words are right to those who find knowledge. Receive my instruction and not silver. Receive knowledge rather than choice gold. Wisdom is better than rubies. All the things one may desire cannot be compared with wisdom. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence. I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, arrogance, the evil way, and the perverse way. Counsel is mine. Sound wisdom, I am understanding, I have strength. By me kings reign, and rulers decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, all the judges of the world. I love those who love me, and those who diligently seek me will find me. Riches and honors are with me, enduring riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, than fine gold. I traverse the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of justice, that I may cause those who love me to inherit wealth, that I may fill their treasures. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I have been established from everlasting, from the beginning, before there was ever an earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water, Before the mountains were settled, before the hills I was brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth of the outer places, or the beginning of the dust. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he established the clouds above, when he strengthened the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limits, so that the waters would not transgress his command. When he marked out the foundations of the earth, I was beside him as one brought up. I was his daily delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and my delight was with the sons of men. Now therefore listen to me, my children. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear my instruction and be wise, and do not disdain it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the post of my doors. Whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who sins against me wrongs his own soul. All those who hate me love death. The first thing to note about this, as well as the other passage, is that wisdom is personified as a female character. And if you notice, she said she was with God before the creation of the world, and she was with God at the creation of the world. And you notice in both passages, wisdom stands there in a very visible place where everybody passes by, and she begs, calls out, cries out to people to come to her. She offers prudence and discretion. Prudence is defined as self-restraint, things that attract your attention. Careful, thoughtful, paying attention to circumstances, and knowing how to predict potential consequences of action. Wanda and I were talking about something last night, talking about decisions that were made, not by us, but other kinds of decisions that people made 40 and more years ago, and how those decisions have filtered down through years. Just that one little decision, and it led to some awful things 40 years back. Little decisions that you don't think will be that great can have consequences far down the road, greater than you ever imagined. And so that's what prudence is, knowing how to predict the potential consequences of something. And notice in this passage what wisdom has: truth, righteousness, understanding. And she says she's more valuable than all riches, than silver, gold, rubies, anything. Because what she gives you is lasting love that lasts for eternity. And I want you to remember, I'm going to emphasize again, she is not hidden. She's standing there where everybody goes by, on a high place where all the paths meet, right at the gate of the city where everybody coming in is going to go by. As she's calling out, begging you to come to her. She is not hidden. Wisdom is not hidden. It's not hard to find. Wisdom is not hard to obtain. And he says that if you come to her, she will not refuse you. Now, a few minutes ago, we talked about wisdom as something you can learn if you practice it. The Bible speaks of another way to obtain wisdom. It talks about wisdom as something God gives. The New Testament book of James says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to you. The same idea is found in Proverbs. It says, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. So these passages see wisdom as something that God gives to us. God gives it to those who ask for it. So maybe if we want to be wise, the first thing we need to do is ask God to grant us wisdom. The Bible also gives another way to obtain wisdom. Proverbs 19 says, "Listen to advice and accept instruction that you may gain wisdom in the future." Proverbs 12 says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eye, but a wise man listens to advice." And so you can gain wisdom if you listen to advice. I can be thankful that I've had a number of different wise people in my life who have advised me on things. I can't say I've always listened to their advice, but I have sometimes. But can you not look back on the past 3, 4, 5 years in our society and see multiple instances where people who are supposedly smart and educated were so sure that they were right that they would not listen to anyone's advice and would not listen to anyone who disagreed with them? Have we not seen multiple instances in the past several years where they tried to block out and shut up those who disagreed with them? They ridiculed the voices of those who disagreed with them. The Bible helps us characterize those people because the Bible says the wise man listens to advice while the fool thinks he needs no advice. From the New Testament book of Ephesians we hear, "See then that you walk carefully, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil." This phrase, redeeming the time, means to make good use of the time. The days are evil. We have to live carefully, wisely, making good use of the time. Now, in just about every passage we've looked at, wisdom has been contrasted with foolishness. And so foolishness is the opposite of wisdom. The Greek word translated as foolishness or fool is the word moros. It's where our word moron comes from. And it literally refers to a condition where, the medical condition where you become sluggish. The meaning of it is that a person is dull in understanding. A fool does not understand. A fool does not comprehend the true nature and the true complexity of the situation. But the dangerous thing about a fool is that they don't realize that. They think they do understand. We might think of a fool and think that somebody dressed up in a clown suit acting like an idiot. But I think where you find the fools is at the very top of many of the institutions of our society. And they don't look like fools. And they don't think like fools. We talked a minute about how fools won't take advice. The reason they won't take advice is because in their minds they don't need it. They think they already understand everything. And that's important to realize because if you're looking at a fool, don't look at a person who acts like an idiot. If you're looking for a fool, look at those who appear smart, who appear knowledgeable. In their own eyes, they are knowledgeable. In the eyes of many other people, they are knowledgeable. They are contrasted to people who are wise, though. Wise people take advice because they realize they don't know everything. This goes along with something else we hear from the book of Proverbs. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with the humble is wisdom. When we get all puffed up with pride and think we understand it all, okay. The humble are wise enough to realize they don't understand it all. From the New Testament book of James, we hear, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom." And this harkens back to the wise being humble. Meekness is associated with wisdom. And meekness in the biblical sense does not mean being submissive or cowing down. In the biblical sense, meekness means showing patience, not being arrogant, and not being full of pride. Patient, not arrogant, not prideful. Meekness and humility are closely related. That verse also harkens back to what we heard from Ephesians about being careful because the times are evil. If we are wise, we will be careful, and we will live with good conduct. From Proverbs, we hear something similar. One who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. Keep in mind that the fools are not reckless and careless in their own minds. In their own minds, they're wrong. I want to go back to the book of James for a passage. If you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is pure, peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy, good fruit, without partiality, and without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Earlier we talked about how God will give wisdom to those who ask. But there is a different kind of wisdom than the wisdom God gives. That's the wisdom the book of James was talking about. It is characterized as demonic. The hallmarks of that kind of wisdom are envy, selfish ambition, boasting, lying, self-seeking. And that's opposed to the wisdom God gives, which is peaceful, gentle, willing to yield, merciful, bearing good fruit, without partiality or hypocrisy. I think that passage from the book of James should really stick with us because it gives us a yardstick by which we can measure when we see envy, selfish ambition, boasting, lying, self-seeking. We might think we're also seeing wisdom, but we need to be careful and realize that even if there does seem to be some wisdom in it, it's demonic. We know that because we see that in the Bible. When we see envy, selfish ambition, boasting, lying, or self-seeking mixed in with wisdom, we know that kind of wisdom is demonic. When we see what we think is wisdom, we need to discern whether that wisdom is coming from God or not. We need to look and see. Is the wisdom we are looking at characterized by peace, gentleness, willingness to yield, mercy, bearing good fruit, no partiality and no hypocrisy? If it's not, no matter how wise it sounds, it's demonic. No matter how much other people may like it, no matter how wise it may seem, no matter how much high they hold themselves to be, and how high society holds them out to be, if we see the qualities of demonic wisdom mixed in, we know it is not from God. And don't be hesitant to use those qualities to discern, because the Bible tells us to test the Spirit to see whether they're from God. We're supposed to use the qualities the Bible talks about to discern a situation, to discern where something is coming from. And being able to do that in itself is wisdom. And so this is wisdom. Wisdom is something the Bible says we should cultivate, try to obtain it. We can obtain wisdom by asking for it. We can obtain wisdom by searching for it, by taking advice. And the Bible is very clear that we are to live wisely, circumspectly. We are to live carefully. And we are to cultivate insight and understanding.